Today we're talking about spinnerbaits. Alright guys, so we'll get into this really quick. I mean, I could talk all day about spinnerbaits, but we're going to do this really quick, or as quickly as I can, without getting sidetracked. So, spinnerbaits. The rod, I'm going to start off with the gear. So the rod, this is a Dobyns Series 704. Which is in Dobyns, in their line, this is actually a heavy action rod. I've talked about this many times because it's one of my favorite rods to use. But it says heavy action rod, but it's not a heavy. You want something just with a good tip on it. I like a faster action rod. Not a super fast rod, but I don't like a complete moderate rod. That's why I like the Dobyns, because they say fast action, but really they have more of a moderate bend to them. That's just like the brand, how they make the rods. The fast action, right, would mean that just the tip is going to bend, but this rod actually bends down pretty good, has a pretty good bend to it. So it's not like as slow as an actual moderate action rod, but it does have more bend. So you can still control the spinnerbait with that faster tip. You can still, pop it through grass, pop it over a stump or whatever, and still have the ability to, to get a good accurate little cast with it. But when the fish come up and swipe at it or to come up and grab it, there is that tip, so it gives a little bit. Because a lot of times what happens, they'll come up and swipe at it. Your rod, if you have a super fast rod, it will actually pull the bait away from them. You got this moderate rod, it kind of gives them the bait for a second. Kind of that delay, kind of like crankbaits, it gives it to it for a second so you can suck it in better. But if they're feeding, like right now, springtime, bass are going to be moving up, shallow, go throw it around shallow cover. They're, if you find some aggressive bass, some bass that are feeding, and they, aggressive, this time of year, they're more a little lethargic, but if you're around like aggressive bass, they'll suck this in. You don't really have to worry too much. But dogs are barking. Sorry if yeah. So it's a faster action. Sometimes you can actually pull it away, but when they're eating it good, a lot of times it doesn't matter if they're really munching them. But again, a rod. I like a 7-foot rod. You can do something around a 7 foot, a 6'8" to 7'3", 7'4". Like I said, this rod, I love it. It's got a little bit more moderate action, so you don't tend to pull the fish out of them, or pull the bait away from them. Sorry. For a rod, if I would recommend for you, if you don't have this rod, so the Dobyns has 704 and a 703. Those two I'd really recommend. The 704 if you're going to be throwing on heavier stuff. I personally fish around heavier cover, so I stepped up to the 704 because I throw around heavier, grass and timber, stumps, laydowns. But if you're throwing around a lighter cover, maybe a pond that doesn't have that much cover, lighter stuff, drop down to a 703. And if you're with the Dobyns. But for other rods, I would probably go with like a medium fast action rod around lighter cover, and a medium heavy either fast action or moderate. If you can find a brand that like this, a brand that says fast action but they're a little bit more moderate, that's going to be golden. That's what I want for a spinnerbait rod, just a little bit more moderate than a fast action rod. So for the line that I'm going to be throwing spinnerbaits on, you can throw fluorocarbon. If you have a stiffer rod and if you're really missing fish, you're ripping it away from them, and they're just swiping at it, and you're having trouble hooking up because you're pulling it away. If you put mono on there, the mono will actually give that stretch, so when they come up and they grab it, it will stretch out and they can pull it into their mouth a little bit better. It's not just ripping away from them. But most of the time I'm going to fish fluorocarbon, or this is actually copolymer line. It's actually a copolymer. This is P-Line's CX Premium. I love fishing with this stuff. It's a fluorocarbon coated line, just like what a copolymer is. It's just like I think it's like a monofilament with just a fluorocarbon coating on it, or some kind of line with the fluorocarbon coating. And so it kind of has this really close to the same properties as fluorocarbon, but it's way less expensive. For this, it's like at my local store, it's like $7 to $10. for the P-Line CX Premium. This is 15 pound. That's what I fish a lot. A lot of times I'll replace that out for fluorocarbon with CX Premium. Because it still has, it's not super stretchy. It's like fluorocarbon. It has a little bit of stretch, but it's not like mono, super stretchy. It's a good strong line, in my opinion. Some people have bad luck with it, but for me it's pretty good as long as you got to take time on your knots. Just be careful with your knots, wet them down good, and don't really wrench on them too hard. But fluorocarbon, or like I said, I replace it with this P-Line CX Premium. I'll leave a bunch of links in the description if you want. Actually, I'll do that to spinnerbaits, rods, line. But if I'm around a little heavier cover, or if I'm fishing around like lily pads, I like to throw spinnerbaits around lily pads, edges of lily pads, and little open pockets in them. And they're really weedless. A lot of people don't think that a spinnerbait's that weedless, but I mean, this is its weed guard. That blade coming over, that's just weed guard, and you can pretty much pull that through a lot of stuff. I'll throw it in the lily pads. Not super thick lily pads, but in the springtime, when they're not super thick, in the fall when they're dying off, just when they're not like super thick lily pads, I'll bring this through lily pads and bang it around against the stems and against the root and stuff. But that's when I go to braid. A lot of times, I'll move up. I can move up and either, this is 15 pound, I'll move either to 20 pound fluorocarbon or CX Premium. Or I'll move to like 30 to 50 pound braid. Most of the time I like 50, but 30 to 50 pound braid. It just cuts through the grass, cuts through lily pads better. For the reel, I like a fast gear ratio reel. It does depend what you're doing with a spinnerbait though, because you can slow roll these things too. You can get a heavier weight in deeper water and slow roll them, and just creep them along the bottom. Really slow, just enough to get those blades fluttering. Those blades, they don't even have to turn. A lot of people think you have to get those blades to spinning, but just to kind of get them, just pull it along the bottom and just get those blades kind of fluttering, and it looks like a dying bait fish. Good wintertime technique, good fall, when they're shad dying and fluttering down. It's really good. So with that, I'll use a slower gear ratio, something like a 5:3:1 or a 6:3:1. But most of the time I'm going to have it on a 7:1:1. That's just a really good gear ratio. It's not slow. It's not, your super fast 8:1:1 or 9:1:1. I like to fish around a 7:1:1 because it gives me the ability to where I can bring it fast, I could reel it close to the surface, or I could do a little bit of slow rolling if I wanted to. It's kind of a very versatile way. So then for the spinnerbaits themselves, I like to fish, I only have a few different colors that I like to fish. Really the mains are going to be white and chartreuse. A white to imitate your bait fish, your shad, also dirty water. Dirty water imitates shad, and then chartreuse, and this is completely all chartreuse, but you can get some that are like these. I'll get these too. This is a Strike King, I believe. Yeah, Strike King. Little Strike King spinnerbait. It's got like some chartreuse, a little bit of orange in there, something just bright colored for dirty water. If I'm fishing clear water with a spinnerbait, which I don't do a whole lot, I'll go to a natural color. If like pond fishing, I'll go like a bluegill. They make some really cool bluegill colors out there. Again, if I'm in bait fish territory, shad, little minnows, stuff like that, I'll throw the white. For trailers on them, usually I stick with some kind of swim bait, just some kind of little swim bait on the back of them. And you can, color is just, it's all your opinion. A lot of people throw different colors of spinnerbaits, different color of trailers. Like I said, those are two of my primary colors that I fish. Most of the time it's chartreuse, but sometimes it is that white. For blades, most of the time I'm throwing silver, just silver, a willow leaf, and then maybe a Colorado or Indiana above it. Or even a double, like these ones, these Strike King ones these are at my local store. So we go in there and get a bunch of them, and they just have a willow, and then I think that's a Colorado probably. Might be an Indiana blade, but it looks like a Colorado blade. And I'm not a huge guy on blades. You know, this is a double willow. It doesn't really matter as well to me. Sometimes if I can't get a bite going, I can try and switch it up a little bit. But the blade colors on cloudier days, you know, maybe the sun's just not peeking, you know, it's not peeking through early morning. Those blades that are just completely solid like that are going to be killer. Because they don't have a lot of reflection. So the sun is not out, so obviously they wouldn't, you know, they don't need to reflect anyway. So they don't have a lot of reflecting. They're just bold colored in muddy water or dirtier water, early in the morning, like summertime and stuff. Slow, you know, throw that and swim it around shallow banks, and they will hammer that. Well, then when the sun comes out, I usually go to silver. I use this silver, and that's gonna allow the flash. You know, the sun's gonna get down, penetrate a little bit in the water. If it's dirtier water, it's not gonna penetrate super well, but that's when I use the silver. I don't usually throw, I mean, I will throw the solids when the sun is out. Just depends what the fish want and what I have tied on. If I have it tied on, I throw it around and see if they'll bite it. But then another thing is gold. I will fish gold blades. All my gold ones are in my pond bag right now. So I will fish gold blades in dirtier water. They just tend to show up a little bit better and flash a little bit more in dirtier water. The silver just kind of goes away in that dirtier water, and that gold blade will you know, you can still it will show up a little better. So anyway, that's kind of it for me on spinnerbaits. Like I said, I could go on for days about different blades, different trailers, all that stuff, but just to keep it really simple. One more thing I want to add just really quick is going to be a trailer hook. A lot of people will not throw a spinnerbait unless they have a trailer hook. They won't do it. But for me, what I found out is that if you add a swim bait on there, a lot of times they'll get the bait a lot better. Okay, so like let's take the swim bait off of this one here, right? And you look at this, there's nothing to target on this bait. The only thing to target, like there's just no bulk to it, right? This is just kind of fluttering, right? There's not anything to really key in on, except for a big flashy blade. So a lot of times they're gonna swipe at the blade, and that's why you have a trailer hook on there, because they come up and they swipe at the blade, and when they do, it's gonna be like this in the water. They swipe at the blade, boom, and they're gonna get the trailer hook. So there's nothing really to target. A lot of times, that's when you know, if you don't have a trailer on there, throw a trailer hook. But a lot of times, if you just add a trailer, there are times like if the bass are really finicky. But most of the time, for me, like all I have to do is throw a trailer on the back of it, and they'll just start committing to it. They will just start munching it, because when they come into it, they come in with they see all the flash, the color, whatnot. They're coming in, and then they see that swim bait on the back there, and it gives them bulk. It gives them a different, you know, that profile, and they actually get to target something rather than just flash, right? They can't really tell what the flash is. It's just flash, right? When it's spinning in the water, you can't really tell it's blades, right? It just looks like just something is flashing. But when they get close enough to this, instead of targeting that flash, they can actually see the body of the swim bait and know that that's a bait fish that they can target. Basically, what a spinnerbait is targeting. It's really imitating usually a school of bait fish. You know, you've got a couple little bait fish, and then you've got your bigger bait fish here, almost like a small Alabama rig sometimes. And so they actually come up to it and they're key in on that better. Some people throw a trailer hook with their swim bait. They actually slide one on there, a hook. But I don't really do that. It kills the action of the trailer for me. And then there's like no point. Plus it's way, I know I'm getting into this again, it's way more weedless to throw without a trailer hook. I can throw this in so much more cover without the trailer hook on there. It really is a different bait when you put a trailer hook on there. You gotta fish it differently. But thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll be fishing like pretty soon, hopefully. The weather's supposed to warm up here this next weekend, so hopefully I'll get out and do some fishing, maybe even do some catching. So I'll see you guys in the next video.